Local First AI goes practical. A local open-source medical assistant built with tiny models shows how far on-device AI has come. The project ingests PDFs of lab results, flags abnormalities, explains significance, and suggests questions for your doctor, entirely offline. It runs Gemma 3.1b, 134 MB, and Qwen 3 to 1.7b via Llama, grounds answers in 18 medical textbooks, chunked into 125K passages, and uses multi-hop RAG to split a document into several focused queries for more complete retrieval. Setup is Docker-based, with a Next.js front-end, browser-side parsing via PDF.js, and a stated 30 to 45 seconds per complex query. It's MIT licensed, with strong privacy claims, your data never leaves your computer, and explicit medical disclaimers. Community feedback is split between applauding the private, textbook-grounded approach and skepticism about 3B parameter models for nuanced medical interpretation. Fair concerns given the stakes and the potential for outdated sources. Still, as a personal comprehension aid while waiting for clinician commentary, it's a thoughtful, transparent baseline. Local voice-to-text is also getting polished. A shareable Apple Silicon setup triggers recording with a hotkey, tries Parakeet MLX first, 0.3s, English, then falls back to Whisper MLX, Turkish English 1.5s, and optionally to 11 Labs OpenAI 2.3s. It saves waves, pastes transcriptions into the active app, cleans up old recordings, and is fully scripted for 5-minute installation. The cascade prioritizes speed, privacy, and multilingual support, and runs on the GPU using MLX. Even image conversion is moving client-side. Only JPG turns ACF, PDF, SVG, TIFF, and more into standard JPEGs entirely in browser, using Google's JPEGly encoder with adjustable quality, subsampling, and metadata retention. No files are uploaded. Optional anonymous stats estimate downstream energy savings from smaller file sizes. It's a clean example of the privacy-first by default trend for utilities that used to require a round trip to a remote API. For those weighing local versus hosted, Llama's cloud offering still keeps its exact rate limits opaque, even to paying users. One user guessed roughly 120-150 requests hour and 2,500 plus week, but emphasized it was only a guess. The counterpoint remains clear in the thread. Run locally for control and privacy, or use cloud to access larger models and predictable performance. The community appetite for practical model choices is strong. Another discussion simply asked for LLM recommendations, underscoring how fragmented selection remains. Agent plumbing with MCP bridges. The Model Context Protocol, MCP, is increasingly showing up as the glue between agents and tools, but users want it closer to the model server, not just the chat UI. One practitioner running llama.cpp behind OpenWeb UI asked how to expose MCP at the server layer so all clients, like a matrix bot, can access the same toolset. A GitHub discussion suggests trade-offs to integrating MCP directly in llama.cpp, while middleware like OptiLM can serve as an MCP proxy. Others propose Langflow-based agent proxies that sit between the server and front ends, but warn about observability costs and the risk of overexposing tools to mid-sized models. The direction is clear. Centralize tools, decouple from a single UI, and let any client benefit. A pragmatic alternative uses N8N as the hub. A lightweight bridge re-exposes N8N workflows as OpenAI-compatible models, translating streaming and non-streaming OpenAI chat endpoints to N8N webhooks. It tracks sessions so agents preserve memory across turns, maps multiple workflows as different models, and recently added forwarding of user information for authorization logic in downstream tools. Teams are exploring model routing and multi-interface use, OpenWeb UI for some agents, WhatsApp for others, without re-implementing agent logic per interface. Knowledge bases are getting better inputs too. A content sync utility now feeds OpenWeb UI knowledge from Slack, Jira, GitHub, Confluence, and local files, channel repo to KB routing included. Early users report solid results for customer support analytics, though others note retrieval quality still depends on prompting and data curation. It's the R in RAG that's often overlooked, reliable, continuous ingestion. And for people relying on NotebookLM for grounded research, an MCP server now lets Claude Code and Codex query NotebookLM directly instead of via copy-paste. It prompts agents to ask follow-ups before responding, returns cited answers, and handles library CRUD, all mediated by Playwright against a real Chrome session. The free tier allows 50 chat turns day, enough for many research flows. MCP or CLI, context matters. There's an active debate about when to use Model Context Protocol versus plain command line tools. One camp argues most tasks can be handled with CLIs that agents can discover via help, saving tokens and complexity. The pushback: it's a false equivalence. Most interactions aren't on a shell with safe, sandboxed execution. Letting an LLM run arbitrary commands on a user's machine is a non-starter for many. Server-side code interpreters from OpenAI and Anthropic mitigate that, but the security and governance story still matters. Token cost is another concern. MCP can be verbose, but it also enables session-scoped stateful resources that are awkward via pure CLI. A Playwright MCP that opens and persists a browser per agent session is a good example. Multiple steps operate on the same window with automatic cleanup at session end. CLI defenders counter that the same patterns can be engineered with process IDs, ports, CDP, and daemons for lifecycle management. The pragmatic takeaway in the thread: CLI where you can, MCP where you must, and expect both to coexist as platforms add long-running tasks and better guardrails. Speed hacks and scale claims. On the model efficiency front, a proof-of-concept hybrid transformer replaces one attention head with an MLP approximator, reporting 95.3% fewer parameters in that head, a negligible 0.6% classification accuracy drop, and the same measured inference speed in its current implementation. It's based on BERT, and the author is rewriting it for a chat model, NanoChat. The core question remains how well such approximations transfer to modern decoder architectures and multi-turn behaviors, but it's a promising avenue for local model acceleration. At the other extreme, a trillion-parameter thinking model called Ring1T was released with open weights and access via LingChat and ZenMux. Massive models continue to test the limits of inference, routing, and context management, but comparative public benchmarks will be needed to sort ambition from advantage. Until then, the model is notable for its scale alone. Model confusion is also a persistent UX issue. A thread about Cursor allegedly faking Claude Sonnet 4.5 triggered responses pointing out that LLMs don't know their own identity or version. Asking which model are you is not a reliable check. For developers, the boring answer is the right one. Verify model provenance via APIs and signed metadata, not by asking the model itself. Parsing songs, docs, and images. Document understanding is seeing efficient, specialized designs. MinerU 2.5 is a 1.2B parameter vision language model for high-resolution document parsing that first performs global layout analysis on a downsampled image, then switches to native resolution crops for fine-grained recognition of text, tables, and formulas. It emphasizes robust table handling, rotated, borderless, partial borders, and mixed language equation parsing, and ships client utilities plus VLLM integration. The authors recommend VLLM's async engine, citing concurrent inference of 2.12 FPS on 1A100. It's an illustrative decoupled approach. Use cheap global passes to guide expensive local detail. For audio, SongPrep offers end-to-end full song structure parsing with precise timestamps and lyrics transcription, without source separation. Trained on the million-song dataset, it supports Chinese and English and reports diarization error rate for structural segmentation and word error rate for lyrics as evaluation metrics. The repository includes checkpoints and inference scripts. On the image generation editing side, a quantized GGUF conversion of QuenImageEdit 2509 is available for Comfy UI via a custom node. It pairs with Qwen 2.5-VL7B encoders and maintains the original licensing terms despite quantization. For local workflows built around Comfy UI, this lowers the barrier to experimenting with strong image editing capabilities. Owning the stack safely. Multi-tenant SaaS is rediscovering wildcard TLS as AI app builders stamp out hundreds of subdomains daily. The operational lesson: use DNS01 challenges, HTTP01 won't work for wildcards, and plan around Let's Encrypt's issuance limits. A detailed guide walks through Caddy plus Cloudflare, clarifies scope, wildcards cover first-level subdomains but not Apex or nested, and argues that a single wildcard cert dramatically simplifies lifecycle at scale. Identity and secret sprawl remains a trap. TokenX, a Go library, standardizes exchanging identity tokens for short-lived cloud credentials across AWS, GCP, Azure, OCI, Kubernetes distributions, and OAuth 2. It emphasizes automatic refresh before expiry and a consistent channel-based delivery model with production-friendly context lifecycles, all under MIT license. It's a practical building block for apps that need to touch multiple clouds without baking in brittle provider SDK logic. Owning more of the hardware stack can pay off if you're ready for the operational work. Geico says moving to Open Compute Project hardware and open-source software cut costs by roughly 50% per compute core and 60% per GB of storage, with over 1,000 OCP servers deployed across 2 colos. The trade: deep investment in firmware lifecycle automation, Redfish-based fleet management despite uneven BMC feature support, and even designing a hybrid ORv3 power system to accommodate legacy AC network gear. Their 6 asks to the OCP community include predictable pricing for 50 to 500 unit orders, standardized hybrid power, shipping LTS images with SBOMs and security SLAs, better thermal reliability guidance, secure firmware rollout patterns, and cross-vendor validation. Also plan to hire, from HDL-savvy hardware engineers to firmware and test automation specialists. Open source continues to shine in boring but essential domains too. Firefly 3, a personal finance manager featured on Floss Weekly, underscores the kind of robust, user-owned tooling that complements this broader shift away from black box services. Learning action models under uncertainty. A new Arxiv paper tackles a core problem in symbolic AI, learning lifted action models from traces of incomplete actions and states. Lifted here means predicates and actions are defined at the schema level with variables rather than fully grounded instances, enabling generalization across objects and environments. Working from incomplete traces reflects real-world data. Logs are noisy, partial, and lack explicit action boundaries. Methods that infer consistent preconditions effects under such uncertainty can improve planning agents that must construct or refine domain models from experience. The paper's title points squarely at that challenge and invites closer inspection from anyone building hybrid neurosymbolic systems.